God was pleased to give the land of Canaan to the Israelites. The whole earth is His, and He can give it to whomever He chooses. Unfortunately, the Canaanites lost their land because of their disobedience and wickedness. God removed them and gave their land to Israel. Sadly, the Israelites made the same mistakes the Canaanites made. They disobeyed God, and just like the Canaanites, they also lost their land. Maranatha Study TV presents Lesson 9 of the 4th quarter, titled Heirs of Promises, Prisoners of Hope, with Pastor N.C. Bright. The key text is taken from the book of Zechariah chapter 9 verse 12. It reads, "Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double." Sunday, Eden and Canaan. The story of humanity begins in the beautiful Garden of Eden. This was not just a garden, it was a place where God walked and talked with Adam and Eve. In this garden, they learned about God's love and character by spending time with Him. When Adam and Eve chose to disobey God, everything changed. Their sin affected the whole world around them. The ground was now cursed with thorns and weeds. Walk became hard and tiring. Then, because sin cannot exist in God's holy presence, separation from God became necessary. Even though Adam and Eve failed, God had a plan to restore what was lost. He chose a man named Abraham. God told Abraham, "Look around where you are. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever." That we can see in Genesis chapter 13, verses 14 and 15. Sadly, Abraham's descendants, the people of Israel, did not follow God's plan. They disobeyed Him many times. But God's purpose could not be stopped. He raised up new children of Abraham, not just physical descendants, but anyone who had faith like Abraham. And this we can see in Luke chapter 3 verse 8. This means that today, everyone who follows Jesus Christ become an heir of God's promises. As Seventh-day Adventists, we are part of God's spiritual family. We are heirs of the promise to restore the land that was lost when Adam and Eve left Eden. But we are waiting for something even better than the original garden. Monday, the land as a gift. Blessings from God are not something we earn. They are given to us out of His kindness, just like Adam and Eve did not deserve the Garden of Eden by their actions. Abraham and his descendants did not earn the promised land by their efforts. It was a special gift from God. Even though the Israelites were allowed to live in Canaan, they did not own it completely. It still belonged to God. Psalm 24 verse 1 tells us that the earth and everything in it is the Lord's. This means that the Israelites were responsible to God, who set the rules for how they should live in the land. In a rental situation, the landlord is responsible for keeping the property in good shape or ensuring everything worked properly. Similarly, God was the landlord of the land He gave to Israel. He provided rain and protected their crops. Their food and safety depended on God's care. Living in Eden came with certain responsibilities, and the same was the Israelites in the promised land. They had to follow specific rules to stay in the land. Leviticus chapter 20 verse 22 highlights that obedience to God's command was crucial. This shows that maintaining a good relationship with God was important for enjoying the blessings of the Lord. Tuesday, the challenge of the land. When Joshua grew old, God gave him an important instruction. Joshua, divide the land among the tribes of Israel, including areas that had not yet been conquered. And this we can see in Joshua chapter 13 verses 1 through 7. This might seem strange. Why divide land that wasn't fully occupied yet? God was demonstrating that the land was already theirs by His promise. However, the Israelites still needed to make an effort to take possession of it. This teaches us an important principle. God invites us to partner with Him. If the Israelites had to fight to possess what God had already given them, what does that mean for us today? The lesson is clear. Once we are saved by grace, God requires certain things. We do not earn salvation, but we have responsibility as recipients of this incredible gift. Philippians chapter 2 verse 12 tells us to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. This does not mean we earn salvation through our works. Rather, it means we actively live out the salvation we have received. We must cooperate with God's sanctifying work in our lives, making choices that reflect our new identity as His children. The Israelites could not conquer the land in their own strength. Yet, God empowered them to do what seemed impossible. In the same way, we cannot live the Christian life in our own strength. As we depend on God and cooperate with His work in us, He enables us to overcome every obstacle and enjoy the fullness of the salvation He has provided. Wednesday, the Jubilee. In ancient Israel, ordinary citizens regularly lost their land and became Pharaoh's serf. The land became concentrated in the hand of a few leading elites, creating a permanent divide between the rich and the poor. This system kept people enslaved to those in power, with no way to escape their circumstances. God saw this injustice and did not want His people Israel to experience the same fate. Therefore, when God brought the Israelites into the promised land, He established special laws to protect them from falling into the same trap. Once the inheritance was received, there were special rules governing the use of the land. Every 7th year, during this year, the land was allowed to rest. No planting or harvesting was done. And this we can see in Leviticus chapter 25, verses 2 through 5. This practice had several purposes. First, it reminded the Israelites that the land belonged to God, not to them. Second, it allowed the soil to recover and remain fertile. Third, it provided food for the poor who could freely gather whatever grew naturally during that year. Sadly, Israel failed to observe this law. Their neglect of the Sabbath year was one of the reasons for their exile to Babylon. You can see in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 20 and 21. The land finally got its rest while the people were in captivity. 70 years to make up for all the Sabbath years they had ignored. The year of Jubilee came every 50 years. If a family had been forced to sell their land because of debt or hardship, they would get it back during the Jubilee and give everyone a chance for a fresh start. In essence, these laws reveal the main purpose of the gospel: to erase the distinction between the rich and the poor, employers and employees, privileged and disadvantaged. Thursday, the land restored. Because Israel disobeyed God, they were forced to leave the land and taken to Babylon as captives. They lost everything God has given them. This was heartbreaking for the Israelites because the promised land was their home and their identity of who they were as God's people. But God did not abandon them. Even when they were far from home in Babylon, God was still their God. He promised to bring them back to their land. God also promised to give them the land forever and to make David their king. Jesus is a descendant of King David, the promised king who will rule forever. Through His death on the cross and His blood, Jesus guarantees that we will receive an eternal inheritance, a home that will last forever. The Apostle Paul wrote, "For no matter how many promises God has made, they are yes in Jesus." This we can see in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 20. This means every promise God made came through Jesus. The New Testament does not talk much about the physical promised land like the Old Testament did. Instead, it shows us that the land was always a picture pointing to something much greater: our eternal home with God. As Christians, our hope is built on Jesus' promise that He will come back. After spending 1,000 years in heaven with Him, God will create His eternal kingdom on the new earth. This will be the complete fulfillment of all God's promises about the land, a perfect home that will last forever. Friday further thought. By beholding Jesus Christ, we shall grow up into His likeness. The more closely we are connected with Him, the more clearly we shall see our imperfections. Christ Triumphant, page 135. If you want this gospel message to reach more people, please hit the subscribe button, like and share this video. Doing so will help YouTube recommend it to more viewers. The comment section is open for your reactions. Thank you all for studying this lesson with us. Goodbye and remain blessed until we meet next week. Maranatha.